In today's show, we're going to talk about Power Apps troubleshooting. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through 5 or 6 of my most common tips around troubleshooting and some specific error messages, a lot of specific error messages that you guys see in your apps, and just try to help you connect the dots better. Should be fun. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with Power Apps 911. Those guys. And today, we're going to do some Power Apps troubleshooting. So here at Power Apps 911, we get thousands a year of questions from people like, hey, help me fix this, help me fix that. My YouTube comments get another several thousand, and then Twitter, right? Like I see lots of questions come through. And a lot of times it's like, hey, if they just understood how these little troubleshooting tricks, right? These little common steps that they could take to figure out the answer themselves, I think they'd be better. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. Is just walk you through, like I said, 5 or 6 of these that I've kind of laid out. We're going to talk about some very common error messages like expect a certain value, or invalid argument types, or expected type mismatches, right? Just some of those common ones you guys see, so you can understand A, why you're seeing them, and B, how I troubleshoot them to hopefully solve those faster. All right, that's enough of the blah blah blah. There'll be plenty of blah blah blah. So switch over to my desktop and take a look. All right, so I tried to break all these down to different ideas. And so the first one, I call this one read the words, right? And so the idea of read the words is Power Apps really, it tries to tell you, right? It knows what you need to do, and it tries to kind of push that in your direction, but sometimes you guys just don't look hard enough, right? You're like, I didn't even know it was on the screen. It's been there for years. So we're going to cover some of those as this first one. And so a great example of that, I've built a little text input here, right? So you do a text input on here, and you're like, all right, I'm pulling that number over, but I want that to look like currency, right? So the first thing you probably do is after a little research, you'd find out there's a text function for that. So you'd be like, all right, text, and then do this. Okay, so here's the first one I wanted you all to know, right? So text, look up here at the top. I want you to all understand that this is telling you this is what it wants. Power Apps is saying, look, text, value. So I need a value. Value is either a number or a date and time, right? So it needs a date, time, or a number in order to do what it needs. Okay, well, text input 1 text, we typed in 12.50. That's got to be a number, so cool. So then comma, then look, it tells you to highlight, format text. Well, I got this pattern from a really smart guy who makes YouTube videos, and I want this pattern right here, right? Then you also see comma, dot, 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 and so that means that's an optional parameter. We're not digging into this function in detail, so we don't care about its optional parameters, but that's the first clue, right? The thing tells you how to use your formula. So you close it up. So you didn't get an error, but it didn't do what you wanted to do. So now this is where troubleshooting comes into play. So with the whole line, like with my cursor at the end of the line, you can see that Power Apps is telling me, look, here's your expression, and that expression outputs 12.50, which is what we see on the screen, and the data type is text, which is expected because we're using a function called text. Okay, but that's nice. Power Apps is always going to tell you what the data type is. So then now I'm going to look at text input 1.text, and I'm going to highlight this, right? So with just it highlighted, look, it says text input 1 text equals 12.50 data type text. Oh, so in this case, what it's saying is you gave me text, right? It is the text 12.50, which our brain says is the number 12.50, but it's not, it's text. So if we want to turn the text number 12.50 into 12.50, what you need to do is you need to wrap that in another function called value. So value turns a text number into a number. Now that you've given it what it wants, look, if you highlight this, it will tell you that's a number. A number is a value. The text function told you right here it wanted a value. Okay, so this is probably a super simple example. You probably all already knew how to use that, but I want you to understand this example because if you understand how to fix this one, you understand how to fix all the more complicated ones, right? That's the biggest problem I see with Power Apps, whether you're a newbie or an old pro. We overthink things. It said, give me a number. I just need to give it a number. It didn't care how we got there. So that is your first tip, right? Is take advantage of the formula data up here and the data types down here. You want to go a little further? Of course you do. So like over here, I made a button that just creates a collection by grabbing my SharePoint list, right? So if you press one of those, employees, if you double click or select that whole thing, look, data type is a table. So literally one of my consultants did not know this until this morning. Did you all know that with table data types, you can often hit the little drop down, there's a little drop down right here that will expand and it shows you your whole table. So if you think about it, like if you go over to view collections here, one of the things people don't like is it only shows you the first 5 rows, right? But if you go this method and highlight the collection, it shows you all of it, making troubleshooting your data so much easier because now I can see literally what's in the collection. I know what's here because I can preview it as well, right? So make sure you know about this, and then when you're done with it, just kind of collapse it back up. Now, sometimes you click this down arrow if you have a giant collection or a very complex collection, lots of columns and records and blah, blah, blah. It can take a minute. So don't get frustrated with it. If you hit the down, it might take 2 or 3 seconds to happen. So the same thing over here in the gallery. So for example, gallery employees, that's my SharePoint data source. I should have made that clear. It doesn't matter, it's SharePoint, but it's my data source that I connected over here, right? Employees right there. But so if you highlight that, it's the same. It's table data. It will usually preview. Sometimes when you're doing a remote data source, it gets grumpy, but it shouldn't. And even if you go here and say, I want to filter this, right? Look, filter, source is a table. Cool. Logic test. Department equals executive, right? Nothing too complicated. Right? Because we don't really care about the query. I just want to show you this. So once again, look, with the whole row highlighted, data type table, filter, blah, 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 and ta-da! So when you have a formula, it's hit or miss whether the dropdown works, but if it does, that is a great way to preview all the data that is in there, especially when you're trying to like really troubleshoot things. So there you go. So that was my first tip, right? Read the words on the screen. They're trying to help you. Okay? And this is going to become a foundation of one of our next tips. So next up, I have what I call know thy data. And so what this is where you guys get a lot of messages around invalid argument types. Here's a perfect example. I tried to say the number 12, right? Because it doesn't have quotes. Remember, double quotes mean strings inside of Power Apps. I tried to say a number equals text. If you hover, it will tell you, right? This is another one of those tricks. Hover over the error and it will almost always tell you. Incompatible types for comparison. These types of arguments can't be compared. Number, text. It doesn't know how to check them. So if this is what was coming in, what could you do? Well, I mean, clearly I hard-coded it so I could just fix it, right? Duh, I know that. But that's not what I want you to do. What I want you to do is think about this, right? We're trying to think a step ahead. So if this is coming from a data source, you can't just change the data source, right? But remember, we could go here and wrap our value function around it. That would turn the text 12 into the number 12. Notice that our error message went away and it equates to true. Or undo that. You can go the other way. You could turn the number 12 into the text 12. Same thing, right? So you can fix it from either side of the equation, but the data types have to match. This is a very common issue when you start trying to do things like filter out data, right? So like if we went back up here, and so say that I wanted to filter where age equals 29, right? Age equals, and so you do things like this. And then you once again, it's telling me, it's trying to figure it out for me, but it's like, hey, I don't think you got this right. So once again, we could fix this. That would work. But what if you were trying to pull the age from right here, right? So text input 1. So let's type in 29 in there. So it's going to be the same thing. So you do this and you're like age equals text input 1 dot text. There's my error message again, or warning, incompatible types for comparison. These types can't be compared, number and text. It's trying, it's putting data in there and it's getting it right, but you do not want these types of warnings. But what can you do? You just wrap your value function right here. And now you've turned that text input. So see, I told you these tips kind of connect, but these are the most common things we're seeing from people. Okay. So that was, invalid argument type. So another place you might see this same type of error. So here I made a cute little drop down. And so if I do 3, it shows you a picture with 3 dogs. You do 2, shows you a picture with 2 dogs, one dog, right? Baby Chewy. Where's Chewy? Oh, Chewy's sleeping right there. Hi, Chewy. So the way that I did that was I wrote an if, right? So, or not an if, sorry, I did a switch. So I said switch on, and look, value drop down one selected value. Because if I didn't have value here, then what does drop down one selected value put out? That would have been text. The text one would not have matched with the number one. So if I drop this value function out of here, I should have it broken to begin with, but I didn't. Look, it's yelling at me. But if you hover in here, it's trying to tell me what's going on. And so if I come in here and work on it enough, I can eventually get it to admit what's going on, right? So there you go. If I remove the close, now it's going to tell me invalid argument type, number, expecting a text value instead. Duh. So then if I don't want to put the value function up there, what could I have done? I could have just wrapped this in a one, or sorry, in double quotes, wrap this one in double quotes. I can't get my cursor to go right there. There you go. There you go. Close the function out. Ta-da! We're back to a fully working version. Different way. Okay. Incompatible data types. Very common problem. Now you should know how to deal with them. Okay. Very similar to that, so data types, valid argument types, right? Different errors you'll see. So another thing you have to remember is that Power Apps wants what Power Apps wants. So one of my favorite examples of this, if we go insert an icon and let's just do add, and let's use the search. Did you know you can search? Another one of my consultants didn't know you could do this and search for the airplane. There's my airplane. So if you go right here and you have the airplane, you're like, all right, I want to make that airplane red. So you come over here, you're like color. Oh, there's that. So I just want red. So I'm just going to put double quotes, red. Oh, it's mad. Why? Well, if I hover, expected color value. So it's telling me it wants a color object. What kind of object am I giving it? Well, if I highlight it, it'll tell me you're giving me a text object. Oh, that's right. So if I want to use the word red, there's different ways to do it. We're not going to get into them, but I can use the built-in data type of red without the quotes, and it would work just fine. So Power Apps will try to help you. Expected color value or expected number, right? It'll try to tell you when you're getting it wrong. The easiest thing to do if you don't know what's happening, like you're like, I don't know why this thing's broken. What you can do is when you go to add an icon, for example, right? So I'm going to add another icon. And when I go to its fill property, let's do a different one. So if I look at the default, look, with this highlighted, data type is color. So I know it wants a color property. It's telling me it wants a color property. The words are on the screen. So then now I can be like blue, and then now it's blue, right? And I see that returns the color property. Yay. Okay. So that's another one. Expected one type of value, you gave it another. It's kind of a nudge in the right direction. In that same line of conversation, here's another issue. So on this button, I'm saying set var my data. So create a variable called var my data and set it to 12. Now look at what did I do here? Double quotes around the 12. So is that text or is that a number? I don't remember. You should know the answer to that, right? If I highlight, it's 12, right? So var my data is 12 and it is text. Okay. And so interestingly enough, right? Like if I put this label down here, I could just be like, show me var my data. And when we press the button, we see the text 12. Okay. You could also highlight the variable. Its data type is 12. So, but let's say that you forgot because you're like, that's 12. That's a number, right? This happens to developers all the time. Developers, that's Power Apps makers. So you go to use it again. You're like set var my data to, I want it to now be 13, right? So I just type in 13 and close it out. It immediately errors. Why? If you hover, incompatible type. We can't evaluate the formula because the context variable types are incompatible with types of values in other places in your app. This is one of the most frustrating errors, right? Because it's not exactly telling you what's upset about, but it's telling you it's not going to work. Also, if you leave and come back, like man, if we press this button, eventually this other button will break as well, right? Like, and you can see the label's broken because if you go to the label, it's like, what does the label say? Expected text value, but if it won't even tell me what var my data is, like it's super broken and confused. This happens a lot. The reason for this is because we tried to set the value, right? So look, var my data this way is text 12. So if I want to use it here, I need to go make this a text13 by fixing it, by making sure that the variable, right? So you can't have one variable or variable is the best example. You can't have one variable and try to set it to two different data types. Power Apps will lose its mind and it will cause issues all over your app where you're using that variable. So just be careful for that, but you get these incompatible type errors. Another thing that you will sometimes see when you do things like this to yourself, like down here, another way that this error message will show up is it'll say expected text, but you gave me error, right? Like it gets really confused depending on how you're using this variable. So be smart about that. When you do something like this, be like, oh man, did I really just break it? Is this what caused all my errors? I can just comment this out real quick. And then, okay, that code on that button is wrong. I need to rethink what I'm doing with that variable. So that is going to be your tip there. All right, we are rolling right along. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. This next one gets a little more technical, which is fun. So here I wanted to have a simple patch for you guys. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna start, here, we'll just write it ourselves. Right, so if you haven't used patch before, you will use that often in your Power Apps career. As you get more and more advanced, it just becomes necessary, and it allows you to either edit, so make changes to a data source, a record, a specific row, or it allows you to create a new one. And so patch employees defaults employees is going to create a new row in my employees table. And so I just want to create a new row for our newest friend, Roger, right? And so I think there's a first name column. There is. So I'm going to create a record for my friend Roger, like so. And so look, no errors. It's great. We're going to just create Roger. So hold down, or we'll hit play here. We'll hit the button. The data source flashed. Error time. So what happened? If we hover, it's trying to help you. Title, field title is required. Okay. So it's telling me that my data source employees has a required field called title that I'm not passing. Oh, well, that's okay, right? So we could fix that. So we might just say title equals hi. I don't know, very descriptive. So let's make sure that works. We'll press the button now. And I held down the Alt key to be able to press the button without going into preview mode. There you go. So that worked. No errors. Great. So now you're like, hey, I want to take that text input 2, and I want to use that as the title. So another common mistake that people make is they go right here to text input 2, and they just put it in. No errors, no nothing, happy. Press the button. The requested operation is invalid, server response, employees failed, object must implement what? What happened here? Well, go troubleshoot. So we know title is text. We went and looked at our SharePoint list as a text column. Highlight text input 2, data type, control. Oh, what did you forget to do? You forgot to say text input 2 dot text. That will take, look, if we highlight this now, text input 2 dot text, data type is text. So when I did that first pass, I was trying to send it the whole control, the borders, the fill, the colors, like SharePoint's like, I don't know what to do with this thing, which is okay. Text input 2 dot text. All right, better? A little bit more with patch. So then now I want to attach, right? So there's another column called favorite color. Okay, and so favorite color is a choice column in SharePoint. And so in order to get favorite color, what did I do? So down here, I created a dropdown. In the dropdown, I set the items property, hopefully you all know this, to choices employees favorite color, right? So that pulls in the favorite color choices from the SharePoint list and shows them in the dropdown. So that's why I know it's red, blue, green, teal, power purple, etc. Okay. So then now you're like, all right, cool. Well, I've used dropdowns before, never for a choice column maybe, but I've used them before. So what is it? It's dropdown 2. I should rename these. Dot selected dot value, right? Because that's how we would get the value. What? Wait, why is it so angry? I don't know. So go hover. Now, one of the pro tips I'll give you about hovering real quick. Anytime that you see a red underline like this, and you see how it's darker red underline over here and it's lighter over here, always go hover over the darkest spot. That's going to give you the most details. Because if I hover right here, it just says patch is mad, right? But if I go hover over here, I get the patch is mad, but I also get the type of this argument, favorite color does not match the expected type record, found type text. So they're right? Drop down to .selected.value. If we highlight that whole thing, that is text. It doesn't want text. A label would want text. SharePoint says it wants a record. Well, what do we know? We know that if we get rid of .value then, oh wait, it's happy. Highlight drop down to selected. Drop down to .selected returns the whole record, the whole row of information that came back from the choices column, which is what SharePoint wants. So that's what it wants me to send. It told me that. I just had to calm down for a second, not be angry, and read it, and I was able to get that. Okay, ready for a harder one? This is one of my pro tricks. Okay, so what if I wanted to make the favorite color red, right? So you can't just say favorite color is red. And I have a whole video on patching complex columns. But if we do this, it's like, hey, I want a record, you need red. All right, well, we know in Power Apps, hopefully, that curly brackets signify records. So what if I said, all right, well, let's just put red in some curly brackets. That'll make it a record. Oh, still angry. Whoa, lots of error messages. All right, we expect a colon in your formula. The formula, oh, look, the second one there. Oh, sorry, I can't move my mouse. So the first one, invalid argument type, expecting a record, but a different schema. So we gave it a record, but not the right record is what that says. Missing column. Your formula is missing a column value with a type of text. Oh, so what if I just said value colon, hey, it's happy. Okay, so whenever you have to craft a record, like in this case for favorite color, choice field, if you put curly brackets in there and then just stick some random text in there, I literally just usually type blah, 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 then when you do that, it will often start spitting out the error messages, right? So like if I change this to value 3, see, expected a record. Look, your formula is missing a column value with a type of text. And if it's missing 4 columns, it'll do one at a time. So you might add 1 and then get a different error message. Then add 2, get a different message, right? So that's common and that's okay. There you go. That's as nerdy as we get here. So, because we're also almost done. Thank goodness. Whew, this video has been long. I apologize, but hopefully you're learning stuff. All right. Last but not least, I don't believe you. Okay. The number one thing that I have learned from doing, we do ad hoc like troubleshooting calls with people. So we'll just hop on the phone with you or hop on a Teams message with you, share screens and fix your one problem, then never speak to you again. I hope we won't speak to you again, but whatever. Anyway, the number one rule that I have when I go into those is I don't believe you. I don't believe, and it's not I don't believe you, it's I don't believe that you're getting what you think you're getting. And the number way to prove that is just a label, right? I can't tell you how often I fix people's problems by throwing a label on the screen and be like, all right, let's throw a label on the screen, let's publish your app and let's run through it and see. So in this label, I might have it showing a variable. I might have it showing the count of the rows that they expect to see. Whatever it is that's not working, the piece of logic, I will expose it in a label, right? I might be like, user, and then, that's a bad one. But so variable name or variable value. And then I'll just, and var my data, right? That variable. And so you can see right now that it's blank. And so maybe that's the problem. So invariably, what happens a lot here is that people think they're sure that that variable is getting set, but it turns out that somebody found an order of steps to get through the process that didn't set that variable. And so by having it on the screen, just, tucked away at the bottom corner until we figure out the problem, lets them run the app for real and be able to visualize it as they're running it, what is happening. So I will throw variables on the screen. I will throw galleries over in the corner so we can scroll through and see the raw data. Like I will just throw little things on the screen and run the app and recreate the steps that are causing the problem, like redo the steps so that I can see what's missing, right? Where is the missing dot? I put so many labels in people's apps, it is crazy. The other thing I will do, like if you're having a hard time with comparisons, so like I had one customer, we couldn't get any of their data to match. Like we were filtering based on I forget the type of field, but like I could visually look at it and be like, that says Bob. So filter where Bob equals Bob and it wasn't matching. I'm like, what is going on? So like in their case, I ended up having to go and use like a formula like Lynn and then var my data, right? So I was counting the number of characters in their variable, or counting the number of characters in the text input. And what I ended up finding out was they had a bunch of trailing spaces, like blank spaces. So you couldn't see them with your eyes, but when I did a count and put that count on a label, I could see that Bob was 4 characters wrong. And then I was able to start to unwind the problem more, right? So by putting the data on the screen, don't believe anything. Don't be like, I know that variable is what I think it is. Show me, prove to me. Even my buddy Daniel, right? I helped him earlier this week with one, right? One of his customers having a hard time, and I forget what it was, but basically the data wasn't what he thought it was, right? Like Daniel wrote all this amazing looping logic, which was perfect, but it was getting the wrong results. And so Daniel kept trying to blame himself. And as soon as I put the data on the screen in front of us, guess what? The data was wrong. There was a bunch of blank data that was causing his logic to not match because the data didn't match. And as soon as we fixed the data and got rid of the blank records that weren't supposed to be there, ta-da! Daniel's logic was perfect. High five, Daniel. That was a very complex formula you wrote. So just don't believe things. Prove that it is what you want. Okay, that is enough for today. I apologize. It's probably a little longer than I wanted, but hopefully you guys took something out of this, right? Like, there's a lot of little things here. If you just consume everything that I just talked about and you can understand it and you can articulate it all, you're going to be a lot better at troubleshooting your own Power Apps. Do you have ideas for future videos, right? I can see this troubleshooting one needing to be revisited. I have another list of about 10 more things I want to cover, but this video is already too long. So leave comments below on other troubleshooting ideas. Maybe share ideas that you already do. Like you have a troubleshooting step I don't know about. The other viewers don't know about. Put them all down below. Also, I have some training classes coming up. I have a live training class at the end of the month. Why haven't you signed up yet? You just want to hang out with me for 5 days. So go to training.powerapps911.com, click on the live classes and check that out. Or the on-demand classes if you want. If that's your bag, whatever. But yeah, I guess with all that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem's big or small, check us out at Power Apps 911. We do it all. I rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.